In the United States, roughly 40 million people hold hunting licenses, about 12% of the population. These individuals have a deep connection with the wilderness, spending countless hours mastering the art of tracking, understanding the lay of the land, and respecting nature's unpredictability. Because of this unique expertise, when an experienced outdoorsman vanishes without any clue, the ensuing search effort becomes a perplexing and haunting mystery, marked by state-of-the-art technology, vast volunteer participation, and a community desperate for answers. The first disappearance. On the crisp afternoon of November 15th, in the rugged, densely forested hills of Greenvale, Vermont, local outdoorsman Jake Buck Callahan embarked on a turkey hunt with his brother-in-law Martin. The pair had long planned this excursion in the remote wilderness near Blackwood Ridge, a place renowned for its challenging terrain and abundant wildlife. At around 2:15 p.m., after a brief exchange of words and a shared moment of anticipation, they agreed to split up, each following separate trails that wound through towering pines and mossy clearings, in hopes of covering a greater expanse and finding the best hunting spots. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Martin emerged alone from his part of the woods. He returned to his weathered truck parked on a narrow road, initially dismissing Buck's absence as a simple delay in rounding up game. However, as dusk settled and the forest grew eerily silent, a sense of foreboding began to grip him. In a desperate bid to reconnect, Martin fired 6 sharp rounds from his handgun into the cool evening air, hoping that the echoing sound would guide Buck back. But as the reverberations faded into the encroaching darkness, not even a whisper of response broke the silence. Eventually, with mounting anxiety and an increasing chill in the air, Martin left the truck to alert local authorities. By the time help arrived, the fading light had rendered the forest almost impenetrable. Over the following weeks, an intense, coordinated search was launched. More than 2,000 volunteers, armed with modern thermal imaging cameras, canine search units trained for rugged terrains, and aerial support provided by a nearby National Guard base, scoured nearly 15 square miles of forest. Every crevice and shadow was meticulously examined. Yet, despite the exhaustive efforts and the high hopes of everyone involved, no evidence of Buck was ever discovered. Buck's daughter Cassandra recalls with a tremor in her voice, "We were certain that the search dogs would pick up a scent or find even the smallest clue. But the forest held its secrets tight, as if he had simply been swallowed by the wild." His wife Lynn lamented, "I've never seen Martin so distraught." That day marked the end of his days as an avid sportsman. Even now, the mystery of Buck's disappearance lingers in local lore, leaving residents and experts alike to wonder if there is more to the woods than meets the eye. The second disappearance. Turn back the clock to September 20, 1943, when the Sierra Nevada foothills near Millerton, California, provided the backdrop for one of the era's most confounding vanishings. In these rugged hills, 67-year-old Everett Red Mallory, a man known for his practical wisdom despite his advancing years, joined his lifelong friends, Frank and Gerald, for a much-anticipated hunting expedition. Though Everett's advancing age and a chronic heart condition limited his mobility, his determination to participate in the hunt was unwavering. His role that day was to maintain camp and ensure safety while Frank and Gerald set out in search of deer. What happened that day remained shrouded in uncertainty. As Frank and Gerald returned from a brief hunt, an unexpected visitor, a fellow hunter, burst into camp, breathless and alarmed, declaring that Frank had mistakenly shot Gerald, misidentifying him for a deer. In the ensuing panic and chaos, Everett attempted to rally and offer assistance, determined to help his injured friends. Amid the confusion, however, he became separated from the group. Observers later recalled that he was seen lingering on a narrow, winding trail just 250 yards from the main camp, a distance that should have been familiar territory for him, given his long history in the area. As the gravity of the situation set in, Frank and Gerald, now engulfed in the crisis, organized an immediate search for Everett. Despite the best efforts of local volunteers and the swift response of law enforcement, the search soon turned grim. The only unusual finding was a solitary boot print discovered 3 miles from the camp, a trace that sparked debate among investigators, as Everett's son argued that, due to his physical limitations, it was highly unlikely that his father could have ventured so far alone. Local newspapers of the time captured the bewilderment of the community, describing the incident as an elderly man who vanished into thin air, as if the land itself had reclaimed him. The search continued for 14 long days, covering every accessible path in the rugged terrain, but all efforts ended in vain. The disappearance of Everett Mallory remains a perplexing enigma, a tragic puzzle that continues to haunt the collective memory of the region. The third disappearance. The mystery deepens on a brisk November day in 2019, this time on the sprawling 100-acre family ranch near Lake Aurora in Minnesota. Here, 61-year-old Conrad Skip Thompson, a seasoned outdoorsman renowned for his deep connection with nature and his unerring skill in the wild, set out on what was meant to be a routine excursion with 3 longtime friends. Among them was Nathan, the owner of a rustic cabin that served as a haven during their outings, where the crisp air and quiet isolation fostered an environment of calm and reflection. On that fateful day, Skip and Nathan ventured towards a popular state forest known for its undulating ridges and reflective, serene ponds. Their plan was straightforward. Skip would ascend to a nearby ridge that overlooked a glistening pond, a vantage point from which he could flush out deer, causing them to scatter toward Nathan's waiting position. The initial hours passed uneventfully as the 2 men tracked subtle signs in the forest, but as time went on, a perplexing silence replaced the usual sounds of wildlife. By early afternoon, as Nathan waited in anticipation, there was no sign of Skip. It is common practice among hunters to fire 3 warning shots into the air if they encounter trouble. However, no such signals were heard. As lunch approached, Nathan's concern grew. Desperate for any indication of his friend's whereabouts, he and the others built a large bonfire to serve as both a signal and a gathering point while they listened intently for any faint calls or gunshots. As the cold deepened and temperatures dropped rapidly to around 25 degrees Fahrenheit, the search was expanded. Local law enforcement, the State Forest Service, and specialized K-9 teams joined forces, combing the area on foot, with ATVs and aerial surveillance supplementing their efforts. In a puzzling twist, mobile phone records showed that Skip had made 3 calls at approximately 2:30 p.m. to his friends, and his device continued to send signals until nearly 6 a.m. the following day. His daughter Melissa recalled with despair, if he had fallen into the icy water, his phone would have been rendered useless long before dawn. Despite all the advanced technology and the collective expertise of the search teams, no trace of Skip was ever found. The disappearance of Conrad Thompson remains one of the most mystifying cases, leaving experts to question how an experienced and resourceful hunter could vanish without leaving behind even the faintest clue. The fourth disappearance. The final tale unfolds on September 10, 1968. In a remote region that tested the limits of human endurance and ingenuity. The Evening Chronicle of Reno, Nevada, once reported the baffling case of 30-year-old Michael Mick De Laurentiis, a determined and well-respected hunter known for his self-reliance. Michael had journeyed solo from his hometown of Carson City to the far reaches of the rugged Mount Crestwood area in Alaska, a wilderness defined by its relentless isolation, extreme weather, and unforgiving terrain. Michael's goal was as straightforward as it was ambitious. He set out to hunt mountain sheep and goats in the sprawling volcanic slopes of the Wrangell Mountains. These mountains, known for their stark, barren landscapes and occasional volcanic activity, provided little cover for anyone, and any presence would typically be impossible to hide. After a successful day of hunting, Michael returned to his base camp near a modest settlement situated about 12 miles from the mountain. However, burdened by the weight of his catch and his equipment, he was forced to leave some of his heavier gear behind on the mountainside. He promised his friend Howard, whom he met in the small community, that he would return for his gear by August 25. But Michael never returned. When Howard reported his absence, the authorities quickly mobilized. The U.S. Air Force assembled a 2-day search operation that swept over 45 square miles of treacherous volcanic terrain. Later, Michael's younger brother, Vincent, fueled by both hope and grief, launched his own private search with an experienced guide. As Vincent and his guide traversed the rugged slopes, they discovered several signs of Michael's presence: a discarded matchbox, unfamiliar footprints, and spent cartridge casings scattered near a rocky outcrop. These findings rekindled official interest, prompting the military to escalate the search with an 18-person mountain climbing team, an Army helicopter, and a ski plane from the State Air National Guard. Despite the vast resources and unwavering determination of the search teams, the unforgiving wilderness yielded no trace of Michael. His grieving mother insisted. Michael was a man who knew how to handle the wild. He would have never panicked under pressure. Yet, despite every logical expectation of finding his remains in an area where any disturbance would be glaringly obvious, the rugged terrain remained silent. Reports in local papers questioned how such a prominent body could simply vanish in an environment where every detail should have been visible, a mystery that continues to confound experts and amateur sleuths alike. Final thoughts. Each of these cases, from the mysterious vanishing of Buck Callahan in the dense forests of Vermont to the bewildering disappearance of Everett Mallory in the Sierra Nevada foothills, the inexplicable case of Conrad Thompson in the Minnesota State Forest, and the eerie fate of Michael De Laurentiis in the harsh Alaskan wilderness, challenges our understanding of even the most familiar and well-traveled outdoor environments. The stories are woven with elements of tragedy, mystery, and an almost supernatural quality that defies logic. Were these simply the result of tragic accidents compounded by nature's unpredictability, or is there something deeper and more elusive at work? The unanswered questions and the enduring mysteries have sparked endless debates among locals, law enforcement, and conspiracy theorists. Each disappearance not only highlights the inherent dangers of venturing into the wild, but also reminds us that sometimes, even the most seasoned outdoorsman can fall victim to forces that remain inexplicably hidden from view. Thank you for taking the time to explore these expanded accounts. If these stories resonate with you or spark your curiosity, consider sharing them with fellow enthusiasts and researchers. We welcome your thoughts, theories, and insights as you ponder the extraordinary mysteries behind these vanishings. And if you'd like to delve even deeper into these perplexing events, please explore our additional resources and literature available through our online store. Stay safe out there, and never stop questioning the unexplainable.